Hey, what's going on everybody? Gamer Geek here, and today I'm back with another exciting update for the development of my CW Flash fan game. Now before we get started, I just wanted to address the elephant in the room and say I know it's been a while since my last update video. Believe me, the irony is not lost on me that after saying I'm trying to be more consistent with my uploads in the last video, I disappeared for like 5 months. I had a lot going on in my personal schedule with work, being out of town several times, my wife changing jobs and whatnot that just sort of took up most of my spare time, making it really hard to record and edit videos for YouTube. But with things calming down and my schedule balancing back out, I was ready to finally come back and make some more content for you guys. Sorry again for the delay, but now let's get into the video. This video is a direct follow-up to my last video where I talked about creating the tutorial section for the game. You can go check out that video if you haven't already, but the short version is I'm breaking down the development process of the tutorial for the game into several parts, with each section getting its own video. Once the tutorial is done, I'll be releasing it for people to play and enjoy while I continue to work on the rest of the game. Today, I'll be taking you guys through the development process for part 1 of the tutorial, basic controls and navigation. This was tricky to start with, because how exactly do you teach someone to walk in a video game without it being tedious? Too many video games drag out the tutorial section in an attempt to add more playtime to the game, I guess is the point of it. Or maybe it's to try and cram more story beats in there. Either way, I didn't want that for the Flash game. Learning the controls should be quick and painless. Boom, there's your controls, walk over to these places, done. So I got to work making the basic UI needed to present the controls to the player. It's just a simple pop-up on the screen that shows all the basic controls for moving around. How to walk, run, wall run, etc. The pop-ups get checked off as the player uses each one to confirm they understand, allowing the game's tutorial to progress. This was easy to implement too, with me just having to track the player controller so the UI can update whenever the controls are used. This kind of tutorial mechanic is super easy to implement in your own projects. It's a familiar design we've all seen 1,000 times before. To teach players how to navigate the game, I decided to throw in some waypoints around the city you'll have to visit to continue through the tutorial. Making the waypoints was pretty easy. I started by creating another UI asset. It's just a basic icon I found online, and I scaled it down so it wouldn't be too big on screen. Then I added it to a blueprint actor, changed its rendering style, and added a basic particle system to give it a little more visual flair. During runtime, these waypoints can be spawned in to guide the player, with different colored particle systems representing different types of locations. Right now, I have yellow for main story missions and green for side missions. Each one will also have a marker of the same color on your compass at the top of the screen to give you more guidance while you play the game. With 2 easy steps, the basic controls and navigation were added into the game. While everything functions perfectly fine, the UI is pretty basic looking, so I plan on using premium HUD elements that I'll buy later on just to make them look a little more professional. The functionality I put in will stay the same, I just want them to look a little nicer than what I'm capable of making, since I don't have Photoshop or anything to make good looking assets. With that done, I now had some work to do on Central City. See, this section of the tutorial is going to have you running through the city to a few places before making your way to Star Labs, so I needed the city to look good since this will be everybody's first impression of the game's world. I needed the environment to be more realistic looking and honestly a bit larger, so I turned to a plugin called City Build. Using City Build, I adjusted my roadmap to clean up a few errors that had happened, like floating assets and misaligned sidewalks and things. I also made Central City into more of a grid to match the layout we usually see in the actual Flash show. From there, I went block by block, regenerating the buildings and assets to make them look more realistic. I even adjusted the waterfront area where Star Labs is using a reference image from the show to try and make the environment as accurate as I could. I added a K along the water and created bridges that will eventually connect to whatever the hell was on the other side of the water across from Central City. Do they ever explain what was over there? If they did, I can't remember. But Central City looks fantastic with these changes, and will make it much more exciting to run through and experience when you first open the game. Something else I added to the game as a waypoint you'll have to visit during the tutorial is jitters. Since City Build can't exactly make specific buildings like that, it's more of a big picture deal, I used a smaller building generator that I've used before to create jitters. It works like any other procedural building tool for Unreal Engine. You feed it modular pieces and watch the magic. Except, I couldn't throw any random pieces at this thing, because it's jitters, it's a unique location from the show and it needs to be recognizable in game. So I turned to Blender, modifying textures of one modular piece I had that did work for the building, and creating another modular piece entirely from scratch to get the windowed concrete section on the first floor of the building to look right. It was a little bit of work that took some elbow grease, but I think it was worth the effort because it looks really nice. While the building is enterable, there's no interior actually added yet. I'll need to model it out in Blender and add it in as a level streaming volume later on. But with that, Central City is now technically made up of a combination of 3 different systems. There's an initial procedural generator to make the city layout and various city elements like pedestrians and traffic, city build to clean up the environment, replace roads and buildings with better looking models, and finally a smaller procedural generator to create unique locations like I just mentioned with jitters and eventually CCPD. This next part isn't specific to the tutorial, I just did some extra work on Kid Flash and wanted to talk about it while we're all here. I went ahead and added a procedural lean to his running animation to make his run look a little more natural during gameplay. It's subtle, but I think it's effective for what it is. If you want to do something similar for your own projects, it's as easy as calculating your character's direction through their animation blueprint and then factoring it in as a variable to an animation blend. To create the lean effect, I just took the run animation and created 2 duplicates, tilting them 5 degrees to lean either left or right. Then you plug those into the animation blend and the direction variable will blend between all of your run cycles to create a seamless leaning effect. So the lean is a good addition to the game, but I also wanted to add something to make speedsters feel faster when you're running around in game. Speed lines and camera shifts are good to achieve a super speed effect for the game, but I also wanted to make a sonic boom kind of effect that plays whenever you start sprinting because I think it would look really cool, especially during like combat in game. I don't have Photoshop or anything like I mentioned earlier, so I couldn't just make and import a texture like you normally would to create the sonic boom effect. Instead, I created a new material, set it to transparent, and I added some radial nodes that I multiplied together to create a circular texture completely in engine. No Photoshop needed. With this sonic boom texture I made, I created a Niagara particle system, plugged my material in to animate it, and all the particle system does is render the material and scale it over time to create this sort of ripple of refraction through the air. It's not complicated at all. Now when you run as a speedster in game, I can spawn the sonic boom in on your location in front of the camera to give it a really cool looking effect when you take off. But with that, section 1 of the tutorial is just about done. Like I said before, I'll definitely be cleaning up the UI with a more professional set of assets later on to make it look better, but overall everything else looks and functions fantastic. The city's a lot more realistic and larger too. I plan on building it out even further so that it's just massive, giving players a huge area to run through and play in. Jitters was a lot of fun to add. Seeing an actual location from the show really tied it all together for the game's environment and makes it feel like part of the show, which is what it's meant to be. But what do you guys think? Does the city look better to you, and what other locations from the show should I add, either as waypoints to visit for the tutorial or just add to the game in general? What would you like to see? I don't want this section of the tutorial to take hours to get through, so unfortunately I can't add all the hits as places you're required to visit, but I'm open to ideas of where else the player should go as waypoints for the tutorial. But that's all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave me a like and a comment down below. Also subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel grow, and it makes sure that you don't miss an upload. Sorry again that I was gone for so long, but I promise I'm back, everything's gotten sorted out, and I'm here to stay. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.